All right, Gilbert Burns versus Neil Magny. Third fight from the top. Both of these guys have lost recently, but they still have a considerable amount of momentum behind them, especially Gilbert Burns. Burns has lost 2 out of his last 3, and he's got a lot of momentum. And that's because of primarily his loss to Khamzat Chimaev, which was such an admirable effort. He exceeded everyone's expectations, mine included, and he's the only guy to test Khamzat. He gave him hell, dragged him into deep waters, knocked him down, almost finished him, showed vulnerability, and just made a war out of a fight with a guy who smokes everyone else. He smoked everyone else he's fought, and not only did Gilbert not get smoked, but he gave him hell. So his stock is high for a reason, and I think that's reflected in his odds, which have him at minus 450 to win this fucking fight. I don't agree with that. I think that's a little wide. Yes, spoiler, I bet on Neil Magny. I guess I'm not picking him, but I'm absolutely betting on him to win. Plus 500 for him to win a decision. I pounced on that. Gilbert Burns, though, he should be a favorite here. He is the more dynamic fighter and the more versatile fighter, generally speaking. I think, Neil can fight anywhere, but Gilbert is much more dangerous on the feet. He's got the much stronger knockout punch, and he can throw hard for 15 minutes. And on the ground, Neil Magny's been submitted 5 times, and Gilbert Burns never been submitted, and he's an elite jiu-jitsu guy. He's absolutely got what it takes to exploit Neil Magny on the ground, and I do think he could do it. I don't know. I don't know how that wrestling battle is going to go. I do think the wrestling battle is going to favor Gilbert Burns early on, as everything else will, because he's the more explosive guy. I think I said a lot of this shit talking about Bruno Ferreira versus Gregory Rodriguez. But, yeah, in general, Burns is the, more powerful guy, a more explosive guy. He'll be much more dangerous on his feet early on and wrestling early on. And on the ground, jiu-jitsu-wise, I don't think it's going to dissipate his, grappling advantage there. Most of his submissions come round 1 or 2, but he does have that 1/3 round submission over Alex Oliveira. And even without having seen that, his jiu-jitsu is so good, it'll be there for him in round 3. But Neil Magny is a decision fighter. If this fight went to a decision, even though it's tough to imagine Gilbert Burns being outpointed, Neil Magny's 16-2 in decisions. He gets it done in one way or another. And I trust that. That's why I'm betting on him to win at plus 500. I just think it's no coincidence. I know a lot of them were close. The Max Griffin fight or whatever. But it's no coincidence that he's won 16 out of 18 decisions. And the overwhelming majority of those come at the UFC level. So I trust him as a point fighter. Neil's great at fighting down the stretch, winning rounds 2 and 3. I know he lost round 2 to D-Rod, but look at how he came back in round 3. And his work rate is a sight to behold. He doesn't stop. He wants to be in the clinch, especially in this fight. He's got a 9-inch reach advantage. So theoretically, he wants to be on the outside pumping the jab, but I don't know if he's going to do so well, even on the outside, with a 9-inch reach advantage against Gilbert Burns, because Gilbert Burns is the quicker athlete. He's going to close that distance, and he's got much harder power. It's like a Jessica Andrade type of thing, or Josiane Nunes versus Zara Farn. But Gilbert Burns, he's a much more seasoned fighter, been fighting for a long time, and he's really good at closing that distance and managing the distance. Neil Magny could present just a problem he's not ready for by having such a big reach advantage. But the one thing I know isn't going to be waiting there for Neil Magny is the knockout punch. Even if he exploits that reach advantage, I don't think he's going to be able to get Gilbert Burns out of there. Neil just isn't a finisher. So I think Neil's got to win a 15-minute fight in one way or another. He could do so from the outside, but his best course of action, as is the case in most Neil Magny fights, is stuffing him against the cage and winning in the clinch. That's my opinion. I don't even know if he can do that, but I think he's going to try to, because I know that's the safest place to be, where you're not vulnerable, susceptible to getting cracked by a knockout punch from Gilbert Burns, and it's also where you're not on the ground in too deep, rolling around with a jiu-jitsu master. So it's a very tough fight for Neil Magny. There's nowhere he can really relax aside from in the clinch. And even there, you're halfway on the ground. So it's going to be very tough, but I am betting on Neil Magny to win. I guess I'll pick Burns. I'll even pick him to win by decision because, even though I think the jiu-jitsu is the biggest gap there, I don't trust that he can implement a game plan where he can run through Magny that way, I know he can duplicate the RDA fight and whatever, but RDA kicked him in the leg to take him down, Neil Magny's going to be playing an anti-jiu-jitsu game, no doubt about it here. He's going to be concerned with going to the ground. So Gilbert Burns probably should win, but my only bet is Neil Magny to win a 3-round decision at plus 500. And, I do think if he's able to slow Gilbert Burns down, he could pull away towards the end and start doing even better. You making more of his range if he gets Burns tired. But I don't have much faith in him getting Burns tired, really. I think he's just pretty much going to have to outwork him. All right, that's it. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.